Hey guys, so as you have heard, Pro Guitar Shop has closed down and Andy and Tone Report have moved over to Reverb.com. And before Pro Guitar Shop closed its doors, I had the chance to sit down with Andy Martin from Pro Guitar Shop and talk about the setup, the recording process, his guitars, and many other things that I wanted to ask him. So here is the interview. Enjoy. Hello everybody. Today I'm here with Andy Martin from Pro Guitar Shop. Andy, thank you for having me. I'm really fortunate to be able to sit down with you and talk about guitar gear and a few other things.
Well, thanks for coming in. I mean, this is a great opportunity to show what I've been doing here for about 10 years.
So I'm here in the room where actually Andy does all the demos. So Andy, can you talk about how you got started with Pro Guitar Shop and when you first met Aaron Miller, the founder of Pro Guitar Shop?
Let's see, it was about 2007, and I just moved from LA. I was working at Full Tone for a couple of years as an assembler, and there just happened to be a bunch of people there from Portland, and they kept talking it up. And my wife and I were kind of ready for a little change of scenery, and we just visited and fell in love with Portland here. I mean, it's just a beautiful green place and more our lifestyle. So luckily I got hired by Aaron as a shipping guy for just his budding business with that just had like maybe one other employee, and he sort of knew that I had a film background. I went to film school, and so I kind of didn't really stay in the shipping department for very long. Kind of moved my way up, and it was really his vision. He had all these great companies that no one had heard of at the time, like Retrosonic and MI Audio and all these Pigtronics, and so he's like, well, can you just we were watching probably a ZVEX demo or Gearman. Those were like really only the two doing it at the time, and he's like, well, you can do this, right? And I said, I think so. So we got a smaller booth, not this one, and about the size of a walk-in closet, and it was me and an amp and a camera and just a pedal pretty much every day, and it just kind of took off from there. And we had some sound quality, early sound quality lessons, and we realized, well, we need to make this sound as accurate as possible because this is supposed to be a resource. So luckily we got in early and got like you'll see that a good mic setup, and just tried to make it sound like you were there, because people couldn't at the time just go into their local store and try out this stuff. So
my next question was, what kind of work did you do before Pro
Right.
Guitar Shop? So what did you do at Full Tone? Were you one of the assembly guys?
Yeah, I was one of the assembler guys. So it was more or less just putting the finishing touches on them, buttoning them up, and testing them out. So I got to try a lot of pedals, and it really helped me kind of develop my ear on the subtleties of 30 OCDs. Like, they, believe it or not, I mean, there's differences in all those, just from tolerances and parts. But you kind of learn how far off they should be, or especially with like the 69 Fuzz, which I was taking those NKT 275s and matching them up and trying to get a good pair, because I mean it could go either way, so like it was a really good lesson on just circuit design too, because I'd not really I'd been into vintage gear for a while, but I didn't really have a good grasp on what component did what, and so it was just a great lesson, and it just kind of prepped me for my next adventure, which was just perfect.
Awesome. So going into Pro Guitar Shop demos, a lot of people have noticed you don't use a pick, and so talk about the technique that you've developed. Is it something that you picked up from somebody, or how did this technique kind of become what it is now?
Yeah, it definitely wasn't anything I learned from somebody. It was just from an early age. It was just about feel. Like I wanted to play multiple strings at once. I was jamming with a drummer, and we were kind of doing our own Black Keys thing in like 1991. And so I always wanted to kind of keep the bass going, and it just never felt right to have a pick. I tried to take lessons with a pick, and and it was the reason I stopped taking lessons.
Okay.
Because they were so adamant that I mean, and I don't blame them, but and so I just kind of developed this style where if I wanted to play fast, I kind of had to do that tremolo pick thing. But luckily, it fit my style of music. If I was trying to play like, like Joe Satriani or something, I mean, it probably wouldn't work. Mm-hmm. But for my style, it's such a, I mean, even people that play with the pick, they have their own picking strength and attack, and so that's why it's kind of funny when people get really bent out of shape about it, because it's like, well, I don't really play the same way as another finger style player. So I mean, and even people that play with the pick have variances in their level of attack, and so I just kind of stick with it, mm-hmm. and it's such an individual thing anyway, guitar playing. So I'm just gonna keep doing what I do because it's comfortable to me, So mm-hmm. that's what everyone should do, is just play how they're comfortable.
Yeah, in the past there have been guitarists that have kind of a unique approach, mm-hmm. and as long as it's musical and it sounds good and other people enjoy it.
Exactly, yeah. And then it wasn't until later, you asked about influences, I mean, it wasn't until later that I realized like Mark Knopfler was playing that way, or Robbie Krieger, or Albert Collins. I mean, mm-hmm. all these guys were like, really, and it was good to know that I wasn't mm-hmm. Wasn't alone.
What was your first electric guitar?
It was an Ibanez Destroyer 2, and it was red, and it was
What year was it from?
I think it's 82. Yeah,
okay.
So
nice.
There was some things I loved about it. It's probably still the easiest guitar to play on. It's got the greatest action. I've never replaced the nut. It stays in tune. I think it has some kind of DiMarzio style humbuckers.
You still have it?
I do. Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
Wow.
And it's funny because one of the it surfaced on social media from that same drummer. Just posted it randomly, and so that was kind of cool to see.
Nice.
Like us jamming up in his loft there.
Sweet. Pro Guitar Shop, one of the most viewed demos is the Bigma Fuzz.
Right.
What is your favorite fuzz? Like, if you think of fuzz and you can only have one, what comes to mind for you?
I think Fuzz Face, and that was a lot of it came from that experience with the '69 Fuzz at Fulltone, because he really showed me that the kind of range a good fuzz face can have as far as cleaning up and being germanium versus silicon. So it's definitely a germanium fuzz for me, because I could, the cleanup, especially if you have a guitar that likes to clean up, maybe something with the treble bleed cap or something like that.
Single coils?
Yeah, or single coils. Yeah, exactly. That's going to clean up the best. And so that's kind of like a desert island fuzz for sure.
So there was different versions of the fuzz face. Are
mm-hmm.
you talking about like the Dallas Arbiter, or?
Yeah, the early one. Then it went germanium first, and then silicon. And I think based on just full tones, the '69 was this germanium, and the '70 was silicon.
Mm-hmm. You'd go for the germanium one.
Yeah, I would, and that's just because for all the reasons you hear about germanium, it's got
mm-hmm.
that extra bit of warmth, and it just responds to me being, having that dynamic range of a finger player, finger style playing. Mm-hmm. It's just a great match. What
is your personal guitar pedal collection, or even if you have one?
Well,
how big is it?
Yeah, it's been collecting over 30. No, man, I'll say 25 years. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it mainly started off with a lot of I was interested in vintage stuff right away. So I mean, I got a Turbo Rat, first, and then a Phase 90 I had to have. I was just like,
the old one.
Yeah,
original?
yeah.
Okay.
It wasn't script, but then I've had some different versions here and there, but. So is that kind of stuff, and I've just been kind of lugging it around with me for decades. And
so a lot of classic pedals.
A lot of classic, and then it really
Any
wasn't
modern ones in there.
Yeah, definitely. Empress, their phaser. You get like almost envelope filter sounds with touch sensitive phasing mm-hmm. and stuff like that. And then I was mentioning the Dry Bell Vibe machine, and that's I always loved a Univibe. So. They've taken it and just like shrunken it down, but it's still photocell, and so I'm really on board with how good that sounds, and and then the alter ego TC Electronic stuff that I had the privilege of creating all those modes. So I really got to see the power of a digital delay and see how close it could come to my Echoplex.
So do you have the X4?
I do. Yeah.
That's actually one of my favorite delays.
Oh, great.
Once it came out, I watched the demo. Halfway through the demo, I stopped. I went to the website. I bought it, and then continued watching the demo.
Nice. Wow, that's good to hear. It worked.
It's just it's such a good digital delay, and I know you had so much time and work put into how it sounds, and thank you. It's one of my favorite pedals delay wise. I always have it on for demos. That's my go-to delay. I have a very subtle preset, and then a more lead preset, which is a little bit
nice,
more higher delay sounds, and I use it all the time. It's like, I don't know why, I'm just really comfortable with it.
Yeah,
from day one.
Well, that's great to hear. I'm glad it just handles a whole range of styles, even though it is vintage voiced. I mean, like some of my favorites are that the copycat. I mean, we were lucky to have all those here.
The originals.
The originals, the Echo Rec, a copy. I mean, I'd never played a copycat, and I was really surprised how dirty it can get. So we kind of went in there and really pushed the boundaries on the software that TC had, and it was it's a wider software than the tone prints. So we were kind of lucky to get the what the developers were using. So
nice.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that. It was a lot of hard work, but it definitely paid off.
So Andy, going into guitars, how many do you own, and what's the range, array of style of guitars you own?
It's a lot of them are built by my dad. He's a longtime cabinet maker, and as soon as I started playing guitar on that Destroyer, he immediately grabbed every book he could find at the library, and he said, I could build a guitar. This is easy, and he did. And so that was probably '94. So I've got at least a dozen of his at home, and a lot of them are, we're fans of the Gibson style, so humbuckers, it just works with how I play. It just adds that fullness,
Has any of them made it to like a demo video?
Yeah, actually, you'll see kind of a parts Strat Gilmore style that he did, and he doesn't do a lot of relic stuff, but this was, since it was a parts guitar, he didn't have a problem throwing it across the bench and scratching it up. So that was like his sort of Gilmore tribute Strat, and I've played some of the it's mainly Les Paul style guitars, and that's always been my favorite, just having a sunburst or a gold top with mini humbuckers, and so they've made some appearances. Probably going to see him a little bit more in the future, since I'll be kind of moving the operation to my home studio. So I can't wait to show people that side of me. So, but
nice.
Yeah, at least a dozen of his, and then the guitars that I've been using at the shop have kind of just been standards. Like a Les Paul, a Telly, and a Strat, or a G&L Legacy, which is and it just mainly just to give people a point of reference. I don't want to come out with something too obscure like a 8-string Charlie Hunter Novaks, which he did make, but that's, people are going to go, okay, well, what am I supposed to do with that? So
a lot of people wanted you to say, I'm playing through a G&L Legacy into a 65 amp
Soho.
Let's do it.
All right. Hey, I'm Andy, and I'm playing through a G&L Legacy into a 65 amp Soho.
There you guys have it. All right.
Well, oddly enough, I had to do a little research because I was trying to remember how long I played that amp, and it was only a year out of the 10 years I've been doing it. But for some reason, that just took off, and people latched onto that. But obviously, the Legacy, the G&L continued longer than the amp. But it's just kind of a funny.
Now that more and more pedals are going digital, and amp modeling is very popular nowadays with Kemper, Fractal, what do you see the future of tube amps and analog guitar pedals? What's the future in your opinion, for those?
My opinion. Well, I mean, I definitely am no stranger to that. I mean, in fact, the first intro song for the PGS videos, you know, everyone always asked what amp that was, and I was like, oh, that's guitar rig. That's my guitar going straight into the sound card, and probably some kind of Marshall or Tweed amp, you know. So, and I've definitely been, you know, a fan of that kind of. You know, it's just convenient. It's can get very close. I mean, for a while it was just about the feel. You know, like can they do it? You know, the sounds are there, but can they get it to react? And so I think, you know, maybe, you know, I think still having a tube in there is really, you know, a kind of a crucial element. But as far as like cab sims, I mean, they've come a long way with that. And so I think that's, you know, that kind of hybrid. I mean, it's still doable. You know, they could still keep a tube in there and have it compact and rack mountable. And then I always kind of, you know, my vision of pedals in the future, it's like I still think that, you know, analog pedals digitally controlled is, you know, there's so much more to do with that. And you see that with like Chase Bliss and TC. So
yeah, you have like the great sound, but the flexibility.
Exactly, and being able to sync, you know, tap tempo or change things with MIDI.
You have presets too.
Exactly. I mean, that's to me is really exciting, and I think it's kind of untapped, you know, in general. So,
what's your favorite delay pedal?
Pedal. Because I can't say Echoplex because it's technically not a pedal.
Oh, okay.
That would be one. That would be the first one.
Like Echoplex 2, the real one with tape.
Yeah. The EP3 is my go-to. Actually, not the tube one. I actually prefer the solid state one. So, but pedal, you know, it's that Catlin bred Bell Epoch Deluxe, which is an Echoplex anyway. But again, the alter ego, just because it's so flexible, and you could get that Deluxe Memory Man chorus, and so I definitely have to kind of stick with those guys, you know, as my favorites. Yeah.
What is your favorite Claun style pedal?
You know, the Archer Icon was really kind of an eye opener for me, because, you know, we had a Claun in here, and we did a bunch of shootouts with various things, Kalamazoo, and which was love pedal. And I think the main thing that we realized that the Archer did was it really nailed that clean boost sound, which I think a lot of people don't realize that the clean boost is almost more important than the overdrive in a Claun, because it's just so wide, and it has that, you know, voltage internal doubling going on. So that's just one of them. I think there's probably a lot that do that just as well, but that was a real eye opener for me. You know.
And you collaborated with what is it, J Rocket Audio, on the gold version, correct?
Yeah, I think it was not me personally, but yeah, we had kind of a great relationship with them on releasing that pedal. And so, yeah, either version of those, I think, you know, whether it's the original or the gold, you can't go wrong with those.
Do you own an original Claun?
I don't, no.
You don't? Okay. What was a pedal that surprised you the most during a demo?
Surprised me the most? Well, there's a lot.
Maybe in recent, like, you're like, oh, you know, in your mind, like, it's a pedal that is not something special or anything like that, and then when you are demoing it, you're like, wow, like, this thing came alive or inspired you in some way.
I always seem to kind of gravitate towards Catlin bred because they're kind of local, and they always kind of speak to me with their, you know, their delivery of what their tones they're going after. But so one of the ones that kind of surprised me was the Formula 55 from Catlin bred, just because, you know, you kind of hear that Tweed, you know, overdrive, Tweed Deluxe kind of thrown around a lot. But the thing that really got me was the feel, because that one it just sounded like an amp that was just on 10 and, you know, not really keeping up, you know, but in a good way. It had this
sponginess.
Yeah, the sag was there, and that's what I've always loved about tube amps, is that you could kind of, kind of punish them, and then they kind of squeeze, and then they let go, and that's exactly, the spongy, and so, yeah, that would be a great go-to, overdrive for that old school sound.
Mm-hmm. So going into what software, and audio and video do you use to edit the demos?
I'm kind of old school in that I like this program Sony Vegas, which is the reason I like it is because it's video and audio in one. And I've tried Final Cut, and it was like, okay, where's all the audio plugins? Where's the tracks? And so I keep, that helps the workflow. It helps me keep running daily, and I could just bring the audio and video together and just, get it done and knock it out, So
All in one.
Yeah.
So what's the most takes you've done for a video, like messing up? People are asking, what's the most amount of times you have to, or average amount of takes it takes for to do a demo? That's
a good question. It's never one take. I mean, if it's one take, I'm running out of the booth, screaming, or something. But definitely, it takes 3 or 4 times to really kind of nail it, and it's more of just me being a kind of perfectionist on, making sure the guitar's in tune. That's one of my pet peeves is when you hear somebody play and the tone can sound great, but if their G is sharp, that's all I'm hearing.
Yeah.
So at least 3 or 4 times. But if it's something crazy where, it's something like a syntax error or some kind of pitch pedal or something where it's a little bit unpredictable, then I might be in here 10 takes just trying to get that one magical take that everything just comes together. So,
what's your favorite guitar amp for pedals, like a platform for pedals?
Oh, I mean, it's probably what I'm using now. I think that Deluxe Reverb was chosen, and we ended up kind of voting out the Soho. I mean, it's not that it wasn't a great pedal platform. It was just kind of it wasn't just a regular name that people were familiar with, a regular sound that people were familiar with.
Not everyone could afford it.
Yeah, exactly, that too. So, yeah, maybe about half price for the Deluxe, and so that helps kind of level the playing field.
And that's original or reissue?
Oh, that's definitely a reissue, yeah. So we just kind of wanted to, it was actually when we started demoing amps, we're like, well, maybe we should just kind of choose from one of these, and we were a Fender dealer at the time, so it just seemed like a nice, middle of the road. It's still at a 12, so it's always going to have some bass, coming through your speakers. And but I really like the Princeton too. Even that the Silverface, the newer one, it actually some great improvements on the bass response and how much headroom there is. So.
What about acoustic guitars? Do you own any? And do you play in any?
I really consider myself more of an electric player. I mean, I've always wanted to. I mean, I love the sound on an acoustic. I mean, it's just so natural and raw. But as far as like really being a connoisseur, I'm not. I've had, there was an old Gibson, a 40s Gibson that was in the family for years, and I've played, Martins and stuff off and on, but I don't really have a great collection, and it's just I love the manipulation of sound when it's electric, and I think that's just really where where my strong suit is.
Are there any bands that you are in currently or playing with?
Not currently. I mean, I grew up playing in bands in high school and a little bit in college, and always had that connection, playing live and knowing what works and what. So I took that experience with me, definitely. But I just found that even though Portland is so, it's a big music town, I just haven't really had that, that need to go start another band. But who knows? I mean, it's not saying I won't do it.
So now that you are transitioning over to Reverb, are you moving to Chicago?
Nope. I'm staying in Portland, Oregon, and I'm lucky enough to be a remote part of the family. So I'm definitely gonna just continue doing, my own Andy demo, as it were, kind of recording the same style. Hopefully using a lot of the same gear and and just kind of continuing in my format. But also, like I was saying earlier, I mean, there's like all sorts of possibilities opening up with formats, and even going back to Chicago a few times and kind of participating in different, whatever it may be, and maybe even getting out in the public a little bit more, and maybe see you at NAMM or something like that.
Nice. If you were to release a signature pedal, what would it be?
That's a tough question. I think everyone would always go straight to overdrive, but I don't know if I want to do that to people. And then, like I was saying, that the Echoplex just got taken care of. But I don't know. I think it would definitely be a kind of Swiss Army knife pedal. I'm pretty much a purist when it comes to guitar tone. I'm not really that into big arpeggiating things or huge shimmery reverb. That as far as my style is concerned. So I don't know. I'd have to think about that. It would definitely be something to enhance a tube amp, to maybe give to just kind of help you step out. Maybe a boost of some kind, or maybe even some kind of cool modulation. Like some. I'm just speaking out loud right now, but I'm sure maybe one day I'll be able to sit down and really talk to a pedal designer about how that would come about. So.
Okay. Awesome. Andy, thank you so much for doing this,
thank you.
Thank you for having me at Pro Guitar Shop.
You're welcome.
And thank you guys for watching.